On this video, I'm going to continue reading from James Allen's collection of essays. In this particular essay, he's going through daily meditations, and he is currently in February. He's going through daily meditations with insights, with ideas, which he suggests you incorporate in your life. Please feel free to share your feedback, your thoughts, your comments, your ideas, and please let me know what parts of this collection of essays resonate with you. And please feel free to let me know what you thought of my other collection of essays and books, which I've shared on prior occasions. I want to take the time to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join me as I read this amazing collection of essays. It's very kind of you, and I want to thank you for it. And I hope you're having a good day. Please share your feedback. Please press the like or dislike button. And please feel free to share this video with others. And please don't hesitate to subscribe if you haven't done so already, so that we get these ideas shared through these amazing essays, through these amazing beings out to the general public. It is much appreciated. Thanks so much, and thank you for joining me. I'm currently on page 178 in the PDF format, and we are currently on February 15th. Coincidentally, today does happen to be February 15th. Coincidentally. Do you believe in coincidence? That's a conversation for another day. I shall continue. February 15th. Thought for the morning. If men only understood that their hatred and resentment slays their peace, and sweet contentment hurt themselves. Helps not another. Does not share one lonely brother, but they would seek the better doing of good deeds, which leaves no ruining. If they only understood. If men only understood how love conquers, how prevailing is its might, grim, hate assailing, how compassion endeth sorrow, maketh wise, and doth not borrow pain of passion, they would ever live in love, and hatred never, if they only understood. Meditation for the day. He who masters the small becomes the rightful possessor of the great. The foolish man thinks that little faults, little indulgences, little sins are of no consequence. He persuades himself that as long as he does not commit flagrant immoralities, he is virtuous and even holy, but he is thereby deprived of virtue and holiness, and the world knows him accordingly. It does not reverence, adore, and love him. It passes him by. He is reckoned of no account. His influence is destroyed. The efforts of such a man to make the world virtuous, his exhortations to his fellow men to abandon great vices, are empty of substance and barren of fruitage. The insignificance which he attaches to small vices permeates his whole character and is a measure of his manhood. He who regards his smallest delinquencies as of the gravest nature becomes a saint. Thoughts for the evening. The grace and beauty that were in Jesus can be of no value to you, cannot be understood by you unless they are also in you, and they can never be in you until you practice them. For apart from doing, the qualities which constitute goodness do not, as far as you are concerned, exist. To adore Jesus for his good qualities is a long step towards truth, but to practice those qualities in truth itself, is truth itself. And he who fully adores the perfection of another will not rest content in his own imperfection, but will fashion his soul after the likeness of that other. Therefore, thou who adorest Jesus for his divine qualities, practice those qualities thyself, and thou too shalt be divine. February 16th, thoughts for the morning. Let a man realize that life in its totality proceeds from the mind. And lo, the way of blessedness is open up to him. For he will then discover that he possesses the power to rule his mind and to fashion it in accordance with his ideal. So will he elect to strongly and steadfastly walk those pathways of thought and action which are altogether excellent to him. Excellent. To him life will become beautiful and sacred, and sooner or later he will put to flight all evil, confusion, and suffering. For it is impossible for a man to fall short of liberation, enlightenment, and peace, who guards with unwearying diligence the gateway of his heart. Meditation for the day. Truth is wrapped up in infinitesimal details. As a year consists of a given number of sequential moments, so a man's character and life consists of a given number of sequential thoughts and deeds, and the finished whole will bear the impress of the parts. Little kindness, generosities, and sacrifices make up a kind and generous character. The truly honest man is honest in the minutest details of his life. The noble man is noble in every little thing he says and does. You do not live your life in a mass, you live it in fragments, and from these the mass emerges. You can will to live each fragment nobly if you choose, and this being done, there can be no particle of baseness in the finished whole. Thoroughness is genius. Thought for the evening. By constantly overcoming self, a man gains a knowledge of the subtle intricacies of his mind. Let me repeat that. By constantly overcoming self, a man gains a knowledge of the subtle intricacies of his mind. And it is this divine knowledge which enables him to become established in calmness. Without self-knowledge, there can be no abiding peace of mind. And those who are carried away by tempestuous passions cannot approach the holy place where calmness reigns. The weak man is like one who, having mounted a fiery steed, allows it to run away with him and carry him whithersoever it wills. The strong man is like the one who, having mounted the steed, governs it with a masterly hand and makes it go in whatever direction and at whatever speed he commands. February 17th, thought for the morning. There is no strife, no selfishness in the kingdom. There is perfect harmony, equipoise, and rest. Those who live in the kingdom of love have all their needs supplied by the law of love. All self is the root cause of all strife and suffering. So love is the root cause of all peace and bliss. Those who are at rest in the kingdom do not look for happiness in any outward possessions. They are freed from all anxiety and trouble, and resting in love, they are the embodiment of happiness. Meditation for the day. Truth in its very nature is ineffable and can only be lived. Truth is the one reality in the universe, the inward harmony, the perfect justice, the eternal love. Nothing can be added to it, nor taken from it. It does not depend upon any man, but all men depend upon it. You cannot perceive the beauty of truth while you are looking out from the eyes of self. If you are vain, you will color everything with your own vanities. If lustful, your heart and mind will be clouded with the smoke and flames of passion, and everything will appear distorted through them. If proud and opinionative, you will see nothing in the whole universe except the magnitude and importance of your own opinions. The humble truth lover has learned to distinguish between opinion and truth. He who has most of charity has most of truth. Thought for the evening. Let it not be supposed that the children of the kingdom live in ease and indolence. These two sins are the first that have to be eradicated when the search for the kingdom is entered upon. They live in a peaceful activity. In fact, they only truly live for the life of self, with its train of worries, griefs, and fears, is not real life. The children of the kingdom are known by their life. They manifest the fruits of the Spirit, Quote, love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, meekness, temperance, and self-control, end quote. Under all circumstances and vicissitudes. February 18th, thought for the morning. The gospel of Jesus is a gospel of living and doing. If it were not this, it would not voice the eternal truth. A temple is purified conduct. The entrance door to which is self-surrender. It invites men to shake off sin and promises as a result joy and blessedness and perfect peace. The kingdom of heaven is perfect trust, perfect knowledge, perfect peace. No sin can enter therein. No self-willed thought or deed can pass its golden gates. No impure desire can defile its radiant robes. All may enter it who will, but all must pay the price, the unconditional abandonment of self. Meditation for the day. There is but one religion, the religion of truth. You may easily know whether you are a child of truth or a worshipper of self. If you will silently examine your mind, heart, and conduct, do you harbor thoughts of suspicion, enmity, envy, lust, pride, or do you strenuously fight against these? If the former, you are chained to self, no matter what religion you may profess. If the latter, you are a candidate for truth, even though outwardly you may profess no religion. Are you passionate, self-willed, ever seeking to gain your own ends, self-indulgent and self-centered? Or are you gentle, mild, unselfish, quit of every form of self-indulgence, and are ever ready to give up your own? If the former, self is your master. If the latter, truth is the object of your affection. The signs by which the truth lover is known are unmistakable. Thought for the evening. I say this and know it to be truth, that circumstances can only affect you insofar as you allow them to do so. You are swayed by circumstances because you have not a right understanding of the nature, use, and power of thought. You believe, and upon this little word belief hang all our joys and sorrows, that outward things have the power to make or mar your life. But by so doing, you submit to those outward things, confess that you are their slave, and they your unconditional master. By so doing, you invest them with a power which they do not themselves possess. And you succumb, in reality, not to the circumstances, but to the gloom or gladness, the fear or hope, the strength of weakness which your thought sphere has thrown around them. February 19th, thought for the morning. If you are one of those who are praying for and looking forward to a happy world beyond the grave, here is a message of gladness for you. You may enter into and realize the happy world now. It fills the whole universe, and it is within you, waiting for you to find, acknowledge, and possess. Said one who understood the inner laws of being, quote, when men shall say, lo here or lo there, go not after them. The kingdom of God is within you, end quote. Meditation for the day. That which temptation appeals to and arouses is unconquered desire. Temptation waylays the man of aspiration until he touches the region of the divine consciousness. Beyond that, border temptation cannot follow him. It is when a man begins to aspire that he begins to be tempted. Aspiration rouses up all the latent good and evil. in order that the man may be fully revealed to himself. For a man cannot overcome himself unless he fully knows himself. It can scarcely be said of the merely animal man that he is tempted, for the very presence of temptation means that there is a striving for a purer state. Animal desire and gratification is the normal condition of the man who has not yet risen into aspiration. He who wishes for nothing more, nothing better than his sensual enjoyments, and is for the present satisfied, such a man cannot be tempted to fall, for he has not yet risen. Aspiration can carry a man to heaven. Thought for the evening. Heaven and hell are inward states. Sink into self and all its gratifications, and you sink into hell. Rise above self into that state of consciousness which is the utter denial and forgetfulness of self, and you enter heaven. So long as you persist in selfishly seeking for your own personal happiness, so long will happiness elude you, and you will be sowing the seeds of wretchedness. And so far as you succeed in losing yourself in the service of others, in that measure will happiness come to you, and you will reap a harvest of bliss. February 20th, thoughts for the morning. Sympathy given can never be wasted. One aspect of sympathy is that of pity. Pity for the distressed or pain-stricken, with a desire to alleviate, to help them in their sufferings. The world needs more of this divine quality. Quote, pity makes the world soft to the weak and noble for the strong. End quote. Another form of sympathy is that of rejoicing with others who are more successful than ourselves, and though their success were our own. Meditation for the day. A man must know himself if he is to know truth. Let the tempted one know this, that he himself is both temper and tempted, that all his enemies are within, that the flatterers which seduce, the taunts which stab, and the flames which burn all spring from that inner region of ignorance and error in which he has hitherto lived. And knowing this, let him be assured of complete victory over evil. When he is sorely tempted, let him not mourn therefore, but let him rejoice in that his strength is tried and his weakness exposed. For he who truly knows and humbly acknowledges his weakness will not be slow in setting about the acquisition of strength. He who cannot fearlessly face his lower nature cannot climb the rugged heights of renunciation. Thoughts for the evening. Sweet are companionships, pleasures and material comforts, but they change and fade away. Sweeter still are purity, wisdom, and the knowledge of truth. And these never change nor fade away. He who attained to the possession of spiritual things can never be deprived of his source of happiness. He will never have to part company with it. And wherever he goes in the whole universe, he will carry his possessions with him. His spiritual end will be the fullness of joy. February 21st. Thought for the morning. Let your heart grow and expand with ever-broadening love until freed from all hatred and passion and condemnation. It embraces the whole universe with thoughtful tenderness. As the flower opens its petals to receive the morning light, so open your soul more and more to the glorious light of truth. Soar upwards on the wings of aspiration. Be fearless and believe in the loftiest possibilities. Meditation for the day. Seek diligently the path of holiness. The giving up of self is not merely the renunciation of the outward things. It consists of the renunciation of the inward sin, the inward error, not by giving up vain clothing, not by relinquishing riches, not by abstaining from certain foods, not by speaking smooth words, not by merely doing these things is the truth found, but by giving up the spirit of vanity, by relinquishing the desire for riches, by abstaining from the loss of self-indulgence, by giving up all hatred, strife, condemnation, and self-seeking, and becoming gentle and pure at heart. By doing these things is the truth found. The renunciation of self is the way of truth. Thought for the evening. Mind clothes itself in garments of its own making. Mind is the arbiter of life. It is the creator and shaper of conditions and the recipient of its own results. It contains within itself both the power to create illusion and to perceive reality. Mind is the infallible weaver of destiny. Thought is the thread. Good and evil deeds are the warp and woof. And the web woven upon the loom of life is character. Make pure thy heart, and thou wilt make thy life rich, sweet, and beautiful, unmarred by strife. February 22nd. Thought for the morning. Cherish your visions. Cherish your ideals. Cherish the music that stirs in your heart. The beauty that forms in your mind, the loveliness that drapes your purest thoughts. For out of them will grow all delightful conditions, all heavenly environment. Of these, if you will remain true to them, your world will last be built. Guard well thy mind, and noble, strong, and free, nothing shall harm, disturb or conquer thee. For all thy foes are in thy heart and mind. They are also thy salvation. Thou shalt find. Meditation for the day. He who ceases to be passion's slave becomes a master builder in the temple of destiny. Man commences to develop power when checking his impulses and selfish inclinations. He falls back upon the higher and common consciousness within him and begins to steady himself upon a principle. The realization of unchanging principles and consciousness is at once the source and secret of the highest power. When after much searching and suffering and sacrificing, the light of an internal principle dawns upon the soul. A divine calm ensues, and joy unspeakable gladdens the heart. He who has realized such a principle ceases to wander and remains poised and self-possessed. Only that work endures that is built upon an indestructible principle. Thought for the evening. Dream lofty dreams, and as you dream, so shall you become. Your vision is the promise of what you shall one day be. Your ideal is a prophecy of what you shall at last unveil. The greatest achievement was at first and for a time a dream. The oak sleeps in the acorn, the bird waits in the egg, and the highest vision of the soul, a waking angel stirs. Your circumstances may be uncongenial, but they shall not long remain so. They shall not long remain so when you perceive an ideal and strive to reach it. February 23rd. Thought for the morning. He who has conquered doubt and fear has conquered failure. His every thought is allied with power, and all difficulties are bravely met and wisely overcome. His purposes are seasonably planted, and they bloom and bring forth fruit which does not fall prematurely to the ground. Thought allied fearlessly to purpose becomes creative force. He who knows this is ready to become something higher and stronger than a mere bundle of wavering thoughts and fluctuating sensations. He who does this has become the conscious and intelligent wielder of his mental powers. Meditation for the day. Men and women of real power and influence are few. It is easy for a man so long as he is left in the enjoyments of his possessions to persuade himself that he believes in and adheres to the principles of peace, brotherhood and universal love. But if when his enjoyments are threatened, or he imagines they are threatened, he begins to clamor loudly for war, he shows that he believes in and stands upon not peace, brotherhood, and love, but strife, selfishness, and hatred. He who does not desert his principles, when threatened with the loss of every earthly thing, even to the loss of reputation and life, is a man of power, is the man whose every word endures, is a man whom the afterworld honors, reveres, and worships. There is no way to the requirement of spiritual power except by that inward illumination and enlightenment. Thought for the evening. Man's true place in the cosmos is that of a king, not a slave. A commander under the law of good, and not a helpless tool in the region of evil. I write for men, not for babies. For those who are eager to learn and earnest to achieve, for those who will put away for the world's good a petty personal indulgence, a selfish desiring mean thought, and live on as though it were not. Scans craving and regret. Man is a master. If he were not, he could not act contrary to law. Evil and weakness are self-destructive. The universe is girt with goodness and strength, and it protects the good and the strong. The angry man is the weak man. February 24th, thought for the morning. Not by learning will a man triumph over evil. Not by much study will he overcome sin and sorrow. Only by conquering himself will he conquer evil. Only by practicing righteousness will he put an end to sorrow. Not for the clever, nor the learned, nor the self-confident is the life triumphant, but for the pure, the virtuous, and wise. The former achieve their particular success in life, but the latter alone achieved a great success, so invincible and complete that even in apparent defeat, it shines with added victory. Meditation for the day. All pain and sorrow is spiritual starvation, and aspiration is the cry for food. Man's essential being is inward, invisible, spiritual, and as such it derives its life, its strength, from within, not from without. Outward things are channels through which its energies are expended, but for renewal, it must fall back on the inward silence. Insofar as man seeks to drown the silence in the noisy pleasures of the senses and endeavors to live in the conflicts of outward things, just so much does he reap the experiences of pain and sorrow, which becoming at last intolerable, drive him back to the feet of the inward comfort, to the shine of the peaceful solitude within. It is in solitude alone that a man can be truly revealed to himself. Thought for the evening. The true silence is not merely a silent tongue, it is a silent mind. To merely hold one's tongue and yet to carry about it a disturbed and rankling mind is no remedy for weakness and no source of power. Silentness, to be powerful, must envelope the whole mind, must permeate every chamber of the heart. It must be the silence of peace. To this broad, deep, abiding silence a man attains only in the measure that he conquers himself. February 25th, thought for the morning. By curbing his tongue, a man gains possession of his mind. The fool babbles, gossips, argues, and bandies words. He glories in the fact that he has had the last word and has silenced his opponent. He exults in his own folly, is ever on the defensive, and wastes his energies in unprofitable channels. He is like a gardener who continues to dig and plant in unproductive soil. The wise man avoids idle words, gossips, vain argument, and self-defense. He is content to appear defeated, rejoices when he is defeated, knowing that, having found and removed another error in himself, he has thereby become wiser. Blessed is he who does not strive for the last word. Meditation for the day. Inward harmony is spiritual power. Take the principle of divine love and quietly and diligently meditate upon it, with the object of arriving at a thorough understanding of it. Bring its searching light to bear upon all your habits, your actions, your speech, and intercourse with others, and every secret thought and desire. As you persevere in this course, the divine love will become more and more perfectly revealed to you, and your own shortcomings will stand out in more and more vivid contrast, spurring on to renewed endeavor, and having once caught a glimpse of the incomparable majesty of that imperishable principle, you will never again rest in your weakness, your selfishness, your imperfection, but will pursue that love until you have relinquished every discordant element and have brought yourself into perfect harmony with it. Make no stay, no resting place until the inmost garment of your soul is bereft of every stain. Thought for the evening. Desire is a craving for possession. Aspiration is the hunger of the heart for peace. The craving for things leads ever farther and farther from peace, and not only ends in deprivation, but is in itself a state of perpetual want. Until it comes to an end, rest and satisfaction are impossible. The hunger for things can never be satisfied, but the hunger for peace can, and the satisfaction of peace is found, is fully possessed. When all selfish desire is abandoned, then there is fullness of joy, abounding plenty, and rich and complete blessedness. February 26th. Thought for the morning. A man will reach the kingdom by purifying himself, and he can only do this by pursuing a process of self-examination and self-analysis. The selfishness must be discovered and understood before it can be removed. It is powerless to remove itself, neither will it pass away of itself. Darkness ceases only when light is introduced. So ignorance can only be dispersed by knowledge, selfishness by love. A man must first of all be willing to lose himself, his self-seeking, before he can find himself, his divine self. He must realize that selfishness is not worth clinging to, that it is a master altogether unworthy of his service, and that divine goodness alone is worthy to be enthroned in his heart as the supreme master of his life. Meditation for the day. In solitude, a man gathers strength to meet the difficulties and temptations of life. Just as the body requires rest for the recuperation of its forces, so the spirit requires a solitude for the renewal of its energies. Solitude is as indispensable to man's spiritual welfare as sleep is to his bodily well-being. And pure thought or meditation, which is evoked in solitude, is the spirit what activity is to the body. As the body breaks down when deprived of the needful rest and sleep, so do the spirits of men break down when deprived of the necessary silence and solitude. Man as a spiritual being cannot be maintained in strength, uprightness, and peace except he periodically withdraw himself from the outer world of perishable things and reach inwardly towards the abiding and imperishable realities. He who loves the truth, who desires and seeks wisdom, will be much alone. Thought for the evening. Be still, my soul, and know that peace is thine. Be steadfast, heart, and know that strength divine belongs to thee. Cease from thy turmoil, mind, and thou the everlasting rest shall find. If a man would have peace, let him exercise the spirit of peace. If he would find love, let him dwell in the spirit of love. If he would escape suffering, let him cease to inflict it. If he would do noble things for humanity, let him cease to do ignoble things for himself. If he will acquire the mine of his own soul, he shall find there all the materials for building whatsoever he will, and he shall find there also the essential rock on which to build in safety. February 27th. Thought for the morning. Men go after much company and seek out new excitements, but they are not acquainted with peace. In divers paths of pleasure they search for happiness, but they do not come to rest. Through divers ways of laughter and feverish delirium, they wander after gladness in life, but their tears are many and grievous, and they do not escape death. Drifting upon the ocean of life in search of self-indulgences, men are caught in its storms, and only after many tempests and much privation do they fly to the rock of refuge, which rests in the deep silence of their own being. Meditation for the day. Human loves are reflections of the divine love. Men clinging to self and to the comfortless shadows of evil are in the habit of thinking of divine love as something belonging to a God who is out of reach, as something outside themselves, and that must forever remain outside. Truly the love of God is ever beyond the reach of self, but when the heart and mind are emptied of self, then the selfless love, the supreme love, the love that is of God, a good, becomes an inward and abiding reality. And this inward realization of holy love is none other than the love of Christ that is so much talked about and so little comprehended. The love that not only saves the soul from sin, but lifts it also above the power of temptation. Divine love knows neither sorrow nor change. Thought for the evening. Meditation centered upon divine realities is the very essence and soul of prayer. It is a silent reaching upward of the soul toward the eternal. Meditation is an intense dwelling in thought upon an idea or theme with the object of thoroughly comprehending it. And whatsoever you constantly meditate upon, you will not only come to understand, but will grow more and more into its likeness. For it will become incorporated with your very being, will become in fact your very self. If therefore you constantly dwell upon that which is selfish and debasing, you will ultimately become selfish and debased. If you ceaselessly think upon that which is pure and unselfish, you will surely become pure and unselfish. February 28th, thought for the morning. There is no difficulty, however great, but will yield before a calm and powerful concentration of thought, and no legitimate object may be speedily actualized by the intelligent use and direction of one's soul forces. Whatever your task may be, concentrate your whole mind upon it. Throw into it all the energy of which you are capable. The faultless completion of small tasks leads inevitably to larger tasks. See to it that you rise by steadily climbing, and you will never fall. Meditation for the day. Let a man learn to stand alone. If a man can find no peace within himself, where shall he find it? If he dreads to be alone with himself, what steadfastness shall he find in company? If he can find no joy in communion with his own thoughts, how shall he escape misery in his contact with others? The man who has yet found nothing within himself upon which to stand will nowhere find a place of constant rest. Without its change and decay and insecurity, within is all surety and blessedness. The soul is sufficient of itself. Where the need is, there is the abundant supply. Your eternal dwelling place is within. Be rich in yourself. Be complete in yourself. Thought for the evening. He who knows that love is at the heart of all things and has realized the all-sufficing power of that love has no room in his heart for condemnation. If you love people and speak of them with praise until they in some way thwart you or do something of which you disapprove, and then you dislike them and speak of them with dispraise, you are not governed by the love which is of God. If in your heart you are continually arraigning and condemning others, selfless love is hidden from you. Train your mind in strong, impartial, and general thought. Train your heart in purity and compassion. Train your tongue to silence and to true and stainless speech. So shall you enter the way of holiness and peace, and shall ultimately realize the immortal love. February 29th. That must have been a leap year. Thought for the morning. If you would realize true prosperity, do not settle down, as many have done, into the belief that if you do right, everything will go wrong. Do not allow the word, quote, competition, unquote, to shake your faith in the supremacy of righteousness. I care not what men say about the, quote, laws of competition, end quote. For do not I know the unchangeable law, which shall one day put them all to rout, and which puts them to rout even now in the heart and life of the righteous man? And knowing this law, I can contemplate all dishonesty with undisturbed repose, for I know where certain destruction awaits it. Under all circumstances, that which you believe to be right, and trust the law, trust the divine power which is immanent in the universe, and it will never desert you, and you will always be protected. Meditation for the day. Find your center of balance and succeed in standing alone. Until you can stand alone, looking for guidance needed to spirits nor mortals, gods nor men, but guarding yourself by the light of the truth within you. You are not unfettered and free, not altogether blessed, but do not mistake pride for self-reliance. To attempt to stand upon the crumbling foundation of pride is to be already fallen. No man depends upon others more than the proud man. His happiness is entirely in the hands of others. But the self-reliant man stands not upon personal pride, but on an abiding law, principle, ideal, reality within himself. Upon this he poises himself, refusing to be swept from his strong foothold, either by the waves of passion within or the storms of opinion without. Find the joy that results from well-earned freedom, the peace that flows from wise self-possession, the blessedness that inherits a native strength. Thought for the evening. Forget yourself entirely in the sorrows of others and in ministering to others, and divine happiness will emancipate you from all sorrow and suffering. Go taking the first step with a good thought, the second with a good word, and the third with a good deed. I entered paradise. End quote. And you also enter paradise by pursuing the same course. Lose yourself in the welfare of others. Forget yourself in all that you do. This is the secret of abounding happiness. Ever be on the watch to guard against selfishness and learn faithfully the divine lessons of inward sacrifices. So shall you climb the highest heights of happiness and shall remain in the never clouded sunshine of universal joy, clothed in the shining garment of immortality. The month of March 1st, thought for the morning, and aiming at the life of blessedness, one of the simplest beginnings to be considered and rightly made is that which we all make every day, namely the beginning of each day's life. There is a sense in which every day may be regarded as the beginning of a new life, in which one can think, act, and live newly and in a wiser and better spirit. The right beginning of the day will be followed by a cheerfulness, permeating the household with a sunny influence, and the tasks and duties of the day will be undertaken in a strong and confident spirit, and the whole day will be well lived. Meditation for the day. As the fountain from the hidden spring, so issues man's life from the secret recesses of his heart. As the heart, so is the life, but within is ceaselessly becoming the without. Nothing remains unrevealed. That which is hidden is but for a time. It ripens and comes forth at last. Seed, tree, blossom, and fruit is a fourfold order of the universe. From the state of a man's heart proceed the conditions of his life. His thoughts blossom into deeds, and his deeds bear the fruitage of character and destiny. Life is ever unfolding from within and revealing itself to the light, and thoughts engendered in the heart at last reveal themselves in words, actions, and things accomplished. Mind clothes itself in garments of its own making. Thoughts for the evening. There can be no progress, no achievement without sacrifice, and a man's worldly success will be in the measure that he sacrifices his confused animal thoughts and fixes his mind on the development of his plans and the strengthening of his resolution and self-reliance. And the higher lifts his thoughts, the more manly, upright, and righteous he becomes, the greater will be his success, and more blessed and enduring will be his achievements. March 2nd, thought for the morning. None but right acts can follow right thoughts. None but a right life can follow right acts. And by living a right life, all blessedness is achieved. Mind is the master power that molds. It makes a man his mind and evermore he thinks. All thoughts in shaping what he wills brings forth 1,000 joys, 1,000 ills. He thinks in secret and it comes to pass. Environment is but his looking glass. Meditation for the day. There is no noble work or higher science than that of self-perfection. Let man realize that life in its totality proceeds from the mind, and lo, the way of blessedness is open to him, for he will then discover that he possesses the power to rule his mind and to fashion it in accordance with his ideal. So will he elect so strongly and steadfastly walk those pathways of thought and action which are altogether excellent to him. Life will become beautiful and sacred, and sooner or later he will put to flight all evil, confusion, and suffering. For it is impossible for a man to fall short of liberation, enlightenment, and peace who guards with unwearying diligence the gateway of his heart. He who aims at the possession of a calm, wise, and seeing mind engages in the most sublime task that man can undertake. Thought for the evening. Calmness of mind is one of the beautiful jewels of wisdom. A man becomes calm in the measure that he understands himself as a thought-developed being. And as he develops a right understanding and sees more clearly the internal relations of things by the action of cause and effect, he sees the fret and fume and worry and grief and remains poised, steadfast, serene. March 3rd, thought for the morning. To follow under all circumstances the highest promptings within you, to be always true to the divine self, to rely upon the inward voice, the inward light, and to pursue your purpose with a fearless and restful heart, believing that the future will yield unto you the need of every thought and effort, knowing that the laws of the universe can never fail, and that your own will come back to you with mathematical exactitude. This is faith and the living of faith. Meditation for the day. A thought constantly repeated at last becomes a fixed habit. It is in the nature of the mind to acquire knowledge by the repetition of its experiences, a thought which it is very difficult, at first, to hold and to dwell upon, at last becomes, by constantly being held in the mind, a natural and habitual condition. Just as a boy, when commencing to learn a trade, cannot even handle his tools aright, much less use them correctly, but after long repetition and practice, plies them with perfect ease and consummate skill. So a state of mind at first apparently impossible of realization is, by perseverance and practice, at last acquired and built into the character as a natural and spontaneous condition. In this power of the mind to form and reform its habits, its conditions, is contained the basis of man's salvation and the open door to perfect liberty by the mastery of self. When the heart is pure, all outward things are pure. Thought for the evening. Have a thorough understanding of your work and let it be your own. And as you proceed, ever following the inward guide, the infallible voice, you'll pass on from victory to victory and will rise step by step to higher resting places, and your ever-broadening outlook will gradually reveal to you the essential beauty and purpose of life. Self-purified, health will be yours, self-governed, power will be yours, and all that you do will prosper. And I may stand where health, success, and power await my coming. If each fleeting hour I cling to love and patience and abide with stainlessness and never step aside from high integrity, so shall I see at last the land of immortality. March 4th. Thought for the morning. When the tongue is well controlled and wisely subdued, when selfish impulses and unworthy thoughts no longer rush to the tongue demanding utterance, when the speech has become harmless, pure, gracious, gentle, and purposeful, and no word is uttered but in sincerity and truth, there are the 5 steps in virtuous speech. Accomplished. Then is the second great lesson in truth learned and mastered. Make pure thy heart, and that would make thy life rich, sweet, and beautiful. Meditation for the day. Every sin may be overcome. And man's life, in its totality, proceeds from his mind. And his mind is a combination of habits which he can, by patient effort, modify to any extent, and over which he can gain complete ascendancy and control. Let a man realize this, and he has at once obtained possession of the key which shall open the door to his complete emancipation. But emancipation from the ills of life, which are the ills of one's mind, is a matter of steady growth from within, and not a sudden acquisition from without. Hourly and daily must the mind be trained to think stainless thoughts and to adopt right and dispassionate attitudes, until he has wrought out of it the ideal of his holiest dreams. The higher life is a higher living, in thought, word, and deed. Thoughts for the evening. Having clothed himself with humility, the first questions a man asks himself are, quote, how am I acting towards others, end quote. Quote, what am I doing to others, end quote. Quote, how am I thinking of others, end quote. Quote, are my thoughts of and acts towards others prompted by unselfish love, end quote. As a man in the silence of his soul asks himself these searching questions, he will unerringly see where he has hitherto failed. March 5th. Thought for the morning. To dwell in love always and toward all is to live. The true life is to have life itself. Knowing this, the good man gives up himself unreservedly to the spirit of love and dwells in love towards all, contending with none, condemning none, but loving all. The Christ spirit of love puts an end not only to all sin, but to all division and contention. Meditation for the day. Without the right performance of duty, the higher virtues cannot be known. All duty should be regarded as sacred, and its faithful and unselfish performance. One of the leading rules of conduct, all personal and selfish considerations should be extracted and cast away from the doing of one's duty. And when this is done, duty ceases to be irksome and becomes joyful. Let me repeat that. All personal and selfish considerations should be extracted and cast away from the doing of one's duty, And when this is done, duty ceases to be irksome and becomes joyful. Duty is only irksome to him who craves some selfish enjoyment or benefit for himself. Let the man who is chafing under the irksomeness of his duty look to himself, and he will find that his wearisomeness proceeds not from the duty itself, but from his selfish desire to escape it. He who neglects duty, be it great or small, or of a public or private nature, neglects virtue. And he who in his heart rebels against duty, rebels against virtue. The virtuous man concentrates his mind on the perfect doing of his own duty. Thought for the evening. When sin and self are abandoned, the heart is restored to its imperishable joy. Joy comes and fills the self-emptied heart. It abides with the peaceful. Its region is with the pure. Joy flees from the selfish. It deserts the quarrelsome. It is hidden from the impure. Joy cannot remain with the selfish. It is wedded to love. March 6th. Thought for the morning. In the pure heart, there is no room left where personal judgments and hatreds can find lodgment. For it is filled to overflowing with tenderness and love. It sees no evil, and only as men succeed in seeing no evil in others will they become free from sin and sorrow and suffering. If men only understand that the heart that sins must sorrow, that the hateful mind tomorrow reaps its barren harvest, weeping, starving, resting not, nor sleeping, tenderness would fill their being. They would see with pity's seeing, if they only understood. Meditation for the day. Man is a doer of his own deeds. As such, he is a maker of his own character. Those things which befall a man are the reflections of himself. That destiny which pursued him, which he was powerless to escape by effort or avert by prayer, was the relentless goal of his own wrong deeds, demanding and enforcing restitution. Those blessings and curses which come to him unbidden are the reverberating echoes of the sounds which he himself sent forth. Man finds himself involved in a train of causation. His life is made up of causes and effects. It is both a sowing and a reaping. Each act of his is a cause which must be balanced by its effects. He chooses a cause. This is free will. He cannot choose, alter, or avert the effect. This is fate. Thus, free will stands for the power to initiate causes, and destiny is involvement in effects. Character is destiny. Thought for the evening. To stand face to face with truth. To arrive after innumerable wanderings and pains at wisdom and bliss. Not to be finally defeated and cast out, but to ultimately triumph over every inward foe, such as man's divine destiny, such his glorious goal, and this every saint, sage, and savior has declared. And man only begins to be a man when he ceases to whine and revel and commences to search for the hidden justice which regulates his life. And as he adapts his mind to that regulating factor, he ceases to accuse others as the cause of his condition and builds himself up in strong and noble thoughts, ceases to kick against circumstances, but begins to use them as aids to his more rapid progress and as a means of discovering the hidden power and possibilities within himself. March 7th. Thought for the morning. The will to evil and the will to good are both within thee. Which wilt thou employ? Thou knowest what is right and what is wrong. Which wilt thou love and foster? Which destroy? Thou art the chooser of thy thoughts and deeds. Thou art the maker of thine inward state. The power is thine to be what thou wilt be. Thou buildest truth and love, or lies and hate. Meditation for the day. Every form of unhappiness springs from a wrong condition of mind. All sin is ignorance. It is a condition of darkness and development. The wrong thinker and the wrong doer is in the same position in the school of life as is the ignorant pupil in the school of learning. He has yet to learn how to think and act correctly, that is, in accordance with law. The pupil in learning is not happy so long as he does his lessons wrongly. And unhappiness cannot be escaped while sin remains unconquered. Life is a series of lessons. Some are diligent in learning them, and they become pure wise and altogether happy. Others are negligent and do not apply themselves, and they remain impure, foolish, and unhappy. Happiness is a mental harmony. Happiness is mental harmony. Thought for the evening. The teaching of Jesus brings men back to the simple truth that righteousness or right doing is entirely a matter of individual conduct and not a mystical something apart from a man's thoughts and deeds. Calmness and patience can become habitual by first grasping, through effort, a calm and patient thought, and then continuously thinking it and living in it until, quote, use becomes second nature, end quote. And anger and impatience pass away forever. March 8th. Thought for the morning. Man is made or unmade by himself. In the armory of thought he forges the weapons by which he destroys himself. He also fashions the tools with which he builds for himself heavenly mansions of joy and strength and peace. By the right choice and true application of thought, a man ascends to divine perfection. By the abuse and wrong application of thought, he descends below the level of the base. Between these two extremes are all the grades of character, and man is a maker and master. As a being of power, intelligence, and love, and the lord of his own thoughts, man holds the key to every situation. Meditation for the day. If one would find peace, he must come out of passion. Selfishness or passion not only subsists in the gross forms of greed and glaringly ungoverned conditions of mind, it informs also every hidden thought which is subtly connected with assumption and glorification of oneself. And it is most deceiving and subtle when it prompts one to dwell upon the selfishness of others, to accuse them of it, and to talk about it. The man who continually dwells upon the selfishness in others will not thus overcome his own selfishness. Not by accusing others do we come out of selfishness, but by purifying ourselves. The way from passion to peace is not by hurling painful charges against others, not by overcoming oneself. Sorry, I'm going to repeat that because that's of vital importance. The way from passion to peace is not by hurling painful charges against others, but by overcoming oneself. By eagerly striving to subdue the selfishness of others, we remain passion bound. By patiently overcoming our own selfishness, we ascend into freedom. The ascending pathway is always at hand. It is a way of self-conquest. Thought for the evening. Whatsoever you harbor in the inmost chambers of your heart will sooner or later, by the inevitable law of reaction, shape itself in your outward life. Every soul attracts its own, and nothing can possibly come to it that does not belong to it. To realize this is to recognize the universality of divine law. If thou wouldst right the world and banish all its evils and its woes, make its wild places bloom, and its drear deserts blossom as a rose, then right thyself. March 9th. Thought for the morning. Whatever conditions are rendering your life burdensome, you may pass out of and beyond them by developing and utilizing within you the transforming power of self-purification and self-conquest. Before the divine radiance of a pure heart, all darkness vanishes and all clouds melt away. And he who has conquered self has conquered the universe. He who sets his foot firmly upon the path of self-conquest, who walks aided by the staff of faith, the highway of self-sacrifice, will surely achieve the highest prosperity and will reap abounding and enduring joy and bliss. Meditation for the day. Aspiration, the rapture of the saints. On the wings of aspiration, man rises from earth to heaven, from ignorance to knowledge, From the underdarkness to the upper light without it, he remains a groveling animal, earthly, sensual, unenlightened, and uninspired. Aspiration is a longing for heavenly things, for righteousness, compassion, purity. Love is distinguished from desire, which is the longing for earthly things, for selfish possessions, personal dominance, low pleasures, and sensual gratifications. For one to begin to aspire means that he is dissatisfied with his lowest state and is aiming at a higher condition. It is a sure sign that he is roused out of his lethargic sleep of animality and has become conscious of noble attainments and a fuller life. Aspiration makes all things possible. Thought for the evening. It is the silent and conquering thought forces which bring all things into manifestation. The universe grew out of thought. To adjust all your thoughts to a perfect and unswerving faith in the omnipotence and supremacy of good is to cooperate with that good and to realize within yourself the solution and destruction of all evil. To mentally deny evil is not sufficient. It must, by daily practice, be risen above and understood. To affirm the good mentally is inadequate. It must, by unswerving endeavor, be entered into and comprehended. Okay, I'm gonna finish today's reading. We are currently on page 266, March 10th. Please feel free to share your thoughts, your comments, your feedback, your insights. Please let me know. Does my reading style resonate with you? I look forward to hearing from you. Please drop a comment. Please leave your feedback, like or dislike by pressing the like or dislike button. And please be ever so kind as to subscribe if you haven't done so already. And feel free to share this video with others. That is very kind of you. That way we could get this message amongst my other messages out further and further, and we could help others and serve others with such a small act of kindness. Thank you for joining me as I read this amazing collection of essays written by Ralph Waldo Emerson. I look forward to hearing from you. Have a beautiful day. Keep on shining a beautiful light. I love you. Take care.